Hey everybody, it's Dave Dugdale, learningvideo.com. So I'm comparing the two action cameras that are hot right now, I guess you could say, the GoPro Hero4 Black Edition and the Yi 4K, I think it's just called Yi Technologies 4K Action Cam. Big difference in price, I'm going to say right off the bat. This is $450, this is $250, this is packed with features. This one's not really packed with features. This one's about to get updated, I believe. I wanted to actually record this before the 19th. I think the 19th is when GoPro is doing an announcement maybe on their new Karma drone and maybe a new GoPro, which makes sense before the holidays. So what I'm going to do first is going to go through all their similar, different, and I'll give you some conclusions. And I'll show you some test footage that I've done along the way. So the first thing is they both pretty much use the same sensor. This one has a slightly newer Sony sensor in it than this one. They both use pretty much the same processor, although this one has a newer processor in it. They both look to be using the same exact lens, which is hard to say, but they both have the same elements and groups. I'm going to show you some tests here of which one's sharper and duller, but I think that's gone more on the processing level, and I'll explain why. They both seem to have about the same dynamic range, even though they have slightly different sensors. I'm going to call it pretty much a tie from, I haven't done any exhaustive tests on this, but all the side-by-side coverage shooting like this that I've done, seems like they're about the same. Even though they're exposing things differently, they seem to be about the same. So how are they different? Like I said before, this is $200 cheaper. That's a big thing. This one has a bigger battery and it lasts longer, which is fantastic. I think it uses maybe that newer processor that's in it. Maybe has a, I don't know, more efficient processor in it, and that's where the savings in the battery comes. I believe the battery is slightly bigger as well. This one has a wonderful touchscreen, as you can see right here. You can touch and change things on the back that is just fantastic, all the different modes. This one obviously doesn't have anything. You can add one with more cost and more battery issues. This one again has a touch screen and actually lasts longer than this one without a touch screen. That's pretty amazing right there. The Yi has a electronic image stabilization inside of it, which could be somewhat useful if you're doing a lot of bouncy movement, like maybe on a, and you don't want to try to do it later in post. You want to just have it all done in camera. That could be a definite benefit. This one does not. The Yi has in-camera lens distortion correction, which can be great if you don't want to be doing that in post, which can be very taxing on a computer and not playing things back in real time. Let's see what else we got. So in terms of image quality, and I'll show you some comparisons here, the Yi has less saturation. So actually, let's look at this time lapse right here. And as you can see, the time, if you look at the grass, you can see it's obviously different there. And you can look at the sky, it's definitely different as well. And you look at this color chart as well, and it was pretty obvious that the GoPro is adding a lot more saturation to the image. The Yi has less, I guess, sharpness to the image when it comes to video. And let me show you, I ran a whole bunch of tests with some newspaper in a lot of different modes. Some with electronic image stabilization turned on, without. It looks to me that they're, again, the same sharpness in terms of lens, because when you go to the time-lapse mode, like looking at the time-lapse right here, I almost think that the Yi looks sharper. So I think it's just a way that they're adding the processing in camera. One has more sharpening than the other. Maybe they were downgrading or pulling back the sharpness for video because they thought you might want to sharpen later. Now, white balance is important for these cameras because a lot of times you're just not going to be doing, you just don't have control over it. You're just going to let it go automatically. And I would say in terms of colors, I'd have to give it to the GoPro. The GoPro is slightly greener, but this one is a lot warmer. I think gets that wrong. Let me show you a clip here also of like when I was pulling it out of the pool, and then I was bringing it back into the pool. But when I pulled it out of the pool, if you look at the clouds, you can see that they don't look very neutral. They're kind of going a little bit warmer, or kind of this magenta look to it. It didn't look quite right. But I would say on average, this is definitely a warmer camera, and this was slightly greener. But I'd say overall in terms of colors, the GoPro wins. Okay, in terms of exposure, I would have to give it to the GoPro. I think it exposes things a little bit more conservatively. So like clouds, if it sees clouds, like in this time lapse right here, you'll see that it's protecting the clouds, where the Yi was doing really well with the grass, exposing it correctly. But as soon as the clouds came, or the sky lit up basically, it didn't handle the clouds very well. So you really can't recover that kind of detail later. So I'd give a win to the GoPro in terms of how it automatically exposes. Now the Yi has electronic image stabilization, which I think is a great tool for being able to get rid of some jitter if you don't want to do that stuff in post, just right in camera. But it comes with I think a couple of different things, and I haven't totally proven this yet, but for one thing for sure, it crops in on the image, which I don't really like. Like in this example with swimming, you can see the whole entire swimmer with the GoPro, but you can't with the Yi when the electronic image stabilization is turned on. And I have a theory too, that when you turn on the electronic image stabilization, it's also making the image a bit softer. I haven't proven this yet substantially, so take it with a grain of salt. I haven't spent a whole bunch of time with it, but it sure seems like it makes the image a bit softer. Okay, in terms of noise, I set them to be the max at 1600, turn the lights down, and as you can see here, I would give it a definite win to the Yi in terms of the amount of noise that's in the image. It's probably just because of the newer processor is my guess, and possibly the newer sensor as well. So conclusions on the Yi, I really like the touchscreen. Boy, it's almost like you would buy this over the GoPro just because the ease of use. If it's something that you're constantly going from 4K to 1080 and you're changing things around, you're setting up time lapses, you're doing a bunch of stuff, you might want to invest in this because it's super easy, and you might be losing shots on the GoPro because if you're fumbling around with the menu and you can't get it quite, you have to go to the app. I do that all the time. And the app, it's very seamless. You can go in and change things quite easily, but that takes a few minutes. Where if you don't have a few minutes, you're trying to set up a time lapse quick and you're moving on to the next camera or something like that, the E definitely might be a better option for you. I really like the longer battery life. That's a big selling point too for time lapses or whatever you're doing. You're not replacing batteries as often. I really like having the electronic image stabilization when I need it. But again, like I said, it comes at the cost of cropping and maybe image quality. I like the idea of the lens correction when I need it. And what's great about here is you can frame up your shot because you can see everything. You can see the image. You can see how it's framed up, and you're like, well, I'm going to apply lens correction and see if you can still fit everything in the scene because you can see the image instead of getting the GoPro and then getting your iPhone out and then framing it up with the iPhone, and it's like a pain in the butt. So there's a lot of benefits to this Yi. However, I don't like how warm it is. I wish maybe they could do with that firmware update, just kind of pull that temperature slider the other direction, whatever they're doing in the processor. I don't like how it blows out the clouds too early, and that's probably the biggest thing that bothers me the most about this camera is the way it's exposing. It doesn't automatically expose the way I like how the GoPro does. The GoPro does a fantastic job quite quickly. It adapts quickly going from into the water, like you see here, to out of the water. I think it does a fantastic job. In terms of how this exposes, and it does so, it tries to do so quickly from going from different environments, in water, out of water, I gotta hand it to the GoPro, and I like how the GoPro handles the clouds, and it gives priority to the clouds. Again, if you could like watch this video and like change their metering that they have in the camera or however they're doing it, that would be fantastic. I would say if you don't already own a GoPro, man, the Yi is for like almost half the cost. It's almost a no-brainer just to get it. And it gives you in a different mindset too. You're like, oh, it's a $500 GoPro. I don't want to lose it, or I don't want to trash it, or you might take more risks with the Yi and get the shot you're looking for, is what I'm trying to say here. I might treat it differently and throw it into different places that I normally wouldn't throw a $500 camera, thinking, oh, if I lose it, it's only $250. It's just a different mindset. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to update to the Yi quite yet because I think it would be silly to, because we don't know what's going to happen a few days on the 19th, and where GoPro's coming out announcement, probably a new GoPro, a new Karma drone or something like that. So we'll wait to see what happens there. And also, the Garmin Verb or something like Ultra 30 Action Cam, around the same price as the GoPro. I haven't looked at that yet either. So that's pretty much it. Just thought I'd give you an update on what I'm doing in terms of, you know, an action cam, because I think it's nice to have one of these in your toolkit. They fit in your camera bag really easily. Just throw it in, and there's times when you need to get an underwater shot or something like that. Those are fantastic to use. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.